In our bustling modern world, we are surrounded by wonders of human ingenuity. We travel in gleaming vehicles, communicate across vast distances in an instant, and build cities that touch the sky. Yet beneath the surface of this progress lies a humble element, often overlooked but utterly essential. This element is nickel. It is a silvery white metal that rarely calls attention to itself. The story of nickel's formal discovery begins in the mountains of 18th century Germany. Miners in the Erzgebirge were in search of valuable metals like copper and silver. They often came across a reddish-brown ore that looked remarkably similar to copper ore. Believing they'd found a rich source of copper, they smelted it in furnaces. Their efforts were met with frustration. Frustrated, miners blamed supernatural forces. In German folklore, those sprites were called nickel. The miners named the ore Kupfernickel, meaning copper demon, Old Nick's copper. The mystery persisted until mid-18th century, when Swedish chemist Baron Axel Fredrik Cronstedt investigated. In 1751 in his Stockholm lab, he heated Kupfernickel with charcoal. He isolated a hard, silvery white metal unlike anything known. He'd proved the superstitions wrong. Cronstedt named the element nickel after the miners' nickel spirits. The metal that was once a demon's trick joined the periodic table. While nickel was only formally identified in the 18th century, humanity's relationship with this metal is far, far older. For thousands of years, ancient civilizations occasionally found strange, heavy rocks that had fallen from the sky. Many of these meteorites were composed of an iron-nickel alloy. For example, a dagger found in the tomb of the Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun, dating back to around 1350 BC, was found to have a blade made from meteoritic iron-nickel. Similar artifacts have been found across the globe, from North America to Tibet. In ancient China, as far back as 200 BC, a silvery alloy known as paktong or beitong was created. This alloy, which translates to white copper, was a mixture of copper, zinc, and nickel. It was prized for its resemblance to silver and its resistance to corrosion. Chinese artisans used paktong to create beautiful decorative items, candlesticks, and even imitation silver coins that were traded along the Silk Road, eventually making their way to Europe. The United States began experimenting with nickel to replace bulky 1-cent coins. In 1866, the Shield 5-cent piece arrived. It became the first American coin called a nickel. It used a cupronickel alloy, 75% copper, 25% nickel. Cupronickel became a global standard for coins. It resisted wear, had a silver-like sheen, and was inexpensive to produce. The success of the American nickel popularized the metal for minting worldwide. Adoption of nickel created the first large-scale industrial demand. In 1889, a British metallurgist named James Riley presented a groundbreaking paper in which he demonstrated the incredible properties of steel alloyed with a small amount of nickel. He showed that adding just a few percent of nickel made the steel significantly stronger and more ductile, meaning it could bend without breaking. This discovery caught the attention of military powers around the world. At the time, navies were building fleets of massive steel warships. The United States Navy conducted a series of famous tests, firing cannons at different types of armor plate. The nickel steel plate proved to be far superior to any other armor available. The advent of the jet age created a demand for materials that could withstand extreme temperatures and stresses. Nickel-based superalloys were developed to meet this need. They can contain over 50% nickel and retain their strength even when red hot. They became the material of choice for the most critical components of jet engines. Without nickel superalloys, powerful and reliable jet engines that carry us across the globe would simply not be possible. The use of nickel superalloys extends beyond the turbine blades to large discs, combustion chamber liners, and afterburner sections of military jets. The digital revolution of the late 20th and early 21st centuries also found a crucial role for nickel. Inside our smartphones, laptops, and countless other electronic devices are tiny, intricate components that rely on nickel. One widespread use is a tiny but vital part, the multi-layer ceramic capacitor, or MLCC. A single smartphone can contain over 1,000 of them. The pins on many electrical connectors are often plated with a thin layer of nickel, then an even thinner layer of gold. The nickel layer acts as a crucial barrier. Beyond these uses, nickel is found in the lead wires of resistors, the magnetic shielding in hard drives, and as a component in alloys for electrical heating elements. For much of the 20th century, if you wanted a portable electrical device, you were limited by the short life of disposable batteries. In the mid-20th century, the nickel-cadmium, or NiCe-D battery became commercially available. This robust and reliable battery used nickel hydroxide for its positive electrode. NiCd batteries powered a huge range of early portable devices. They were used in professional two-way radios, emergency lighting systems, and early cordless power tools. The next great leap forward came in the 1990s with the commercialization of the nickel metal hydride, or NiMH battery. Today, nickel is at the absolute forefront of the most significant transportation revolution in a century: the shift to electric vehicles. The most popular cathode chemistries for modern long-range EVs are nickel-based. These are often referred to by acronyms like NMC, nickel manganese cobalt. In these cathodes, nickel provides the high energy density. In simple terms, the more nickel you pack into the cathode, the more energy the battery can hold for a given weight. This higher nickel content lets cars like a Tesla Model 3 or a Volkswagen ID.4 to travel hundreds of miles on a single charge. The importance of nickel in our energy future extends beyond the cars we drive. The same battery technology that powers electric vehicles is also becoming essential for modernizing our electrical grids. Renewable energy sources like wind and solar power are a crucial part of the fight against climate change, but they have a fundamental challenge: intermittency. To create a reliable grid based on these sources, we need to store excess energy generated during sunny or windy periods and release it when generation is low. These battery farms are being deployed around the world, from California to Australia, acting as giant electrical shock absorbers for the grid. Nickel is not an exceptionally rare element in the Earth's crust, but finding it in concentrations high enough to be mined profitably is a different matter entirely. It is a global treasure hunt. The world's primary nickel resources are concentrated in just a handful of countries: Indonesia, the Philippines, Russia, Canada, Australia, and New Caledonia. Prospecting for nickel is a sophisticated science. Satellite imagery helps to identify promising geological formations from space. If the signs are good, drilling rigs are brought in to extract core samples from deep within the rock. These cylindrical cores are a vertical slice of the Earth's history. The nickel deposits found in the Earth's crust are broadly divided into two main types: laterite deposits and sulfide deposits. Laterite deposits form from intense weathering in tropical and subtropical climates. About 2/3 of onshore nickel is in laterites. Sulfide deposits have a fiery origin, molten magma rising from the mantle. About 1/3 is in sulfides. Each has unique challenges and opportunities. The contrast is clear. Laterites, think Indonesia, Philippines, mined in vast open pits. Sulfides, think Sudbury, Canada, Norilsk, Russia, mined from deep tunnels. For laterite deposits and for some large near-surface sulfide deposits, the most common method of extraction is open-pit mining. This technique is exactly what it sounds like. A massive open-air pit is excavated from the surface downwards to access the ore. The process begins with clearing the land. All vegetation and topsoil are carefully removed from the area designated for mining. The first step is to break up the hard rock and ore, and this is typically done through drilling and blasting. When detonated, the blast fractures a huge volume of rock, breaking it into manageable pieces. After the blast, a fleet of enormous machines moves in to do the heavy lifting. These trucks are some of the largest land vehicles on Earth, with tires taller than a person and the capacity to carry hundreds of tons in their beds. A modern open-pit mine is a highly organized and dynamic environment, a carefully choreographed dance of immense machinery and skilled operators. The day begins long before sunrise with safety briefings and operational planning. The haul truck drivers navigate a world built on a colossal scale. Their cabs are perched high above the ground, offering a commanding view of the pit. They follow the spiraling roads, a constant procession of behemoths ascending and descending. The journey from the bottom of the pit to the crusher at the surface can be long and steep. It is a complex, high-stakes operation that continues around the clock in all weather, driven by the world's insatiable appetite for nickel. When nickel sulfide deposits are located too deep beneath the surface to be accessed by an open pit, miners must venture underground. Underground mining is a completely different world. It is a complex labyrinth of tunnels and shafts carved deep within the solid rock. The first step in creating an underground mine is to establish access to the ore body. This is usually done by sinking a vertical shaft from the surface down to the level of the ore. This main shaft becomes the mine's lifeline, transporting workers, equipment, materials, and the excavated ore. From the main shaft, a network of horizontal tunnels is excavated, drifts and galleries. These tunnels follow the veins of ore through the rock. Creating these tunnels is a slow, cyclical process. Miners use specialized drilling machines called jumbos to drill a pattern of holes into the rock face at the end of a tunnel. After the blast, specialized loaders designed to operate in confined spaces scoop up the broken rock, load it into underground trucks or onto a rail system. The main challenge in underground mining is supporting the ground to prevent collapses. Long steel rock bolts are drilled into the ceilings and walls to pin loose slabs of rock together. One of the most critical systems in any deep mine is ventilation. A powerful network of fans forces fresh air from the surface down into the mine through dedicated ventilation shafts. Another constant battle is fought against water. Groundwater naturally seeps through fractures in the rock and can flood the mine workings if not controlled. The logistics are complex. Everything needed, explosives, rock bolts, fuel, spare parts, must be transported down the main shaft and through tunnels to the exact location where it is needed. Likewise, ore is moved from the working face to ore passes, vertical tunnels that let rock fall to a main collection level at the bottom. The skip hoists the ore thousands of meters to the surface at high speed. Regardless of whether the nickel ore is gouged from an open pit or blasted from a deep underground tunnel, it begins the next stage of its journey in the same form, as large, irregular chunks of rock. The first stop after the mine is the primary crusher. Haul trucks dump massive loads into the crusher mouth. The noise is deafening as tons of rock are shattered into smaller, more manageable pieces. The final step in the comminution circuit is grinding. This is done in enormous rotating cylindrical machines called grinding mills. As the mill rotates, the grinding medium tumbles and cascades, crushing and grinding the ore particles. The result is a fine slurry where the individual nickel mineral particles have finally been broken free from the surrounding waste rock, ready for the next stage of separation. For nickel sulfide ores, the common method is froth flotation. It's a truly remarkable process that almost feels like magic. The first step is to add specific chemical reagents to the slurry. One type of reagent is called a collector. This chemical has a special molecular structure designed to attach specifically to nickel sulfide mineral particles. Air is bubbled up through the bottom of the flotation cell. Because the nickel sulfide particles are now water repellent, they attach themselves to the surface of the rising air bubbles. The air bubbles, carrying their precious cargo of nickel sulfide particles, rise to the surface and get trapped in thick froth. This dark, mineral-rich froth continuously overflows. That froth is the nickel concentrate. Once the nickel sulfide ore has been concentrated, the challenge shifts from physical separation to chemical transformation. The most established method is pyrometallurgy, using immense heat to bring about chemical changes. The first major step is often roasting. The dewatered concentrate is fed into a special furnace called a roaster, heated to between 500 and 700 degrees Celsius in controlled airflow. After roasting, the hot calcine is transferred to the smelting furnace. It is heated to extreme temperatures, often exceeding 1,300 degrees Celsius. The purpose of smelting is to melt the calcine and separate it into two distinct liquid layers, molten slag and molten matte. The matte contains the nickel from the original concentrate. The molten matte is poured into the converter, a large pear-shaped tilting furnace. A high-pressure blast of air initiates vigorous chemical reactions to remove remaining iron and sulfur. The sulfur dioxide gas produced is captured and sent to the acid plant. This technology has had a transformative effect, reducing emissions by over 90% from historic peaks. Finally, continued blowing drives off sulfur from nickel sulfide itself, leaving behind molten metal about 95% pure nickel, the smelter's final output. The long, fiery journey of pyrometallurgy is complete. The rock is now crude metal, bound for a refinery for final purification into high-purity nickel used in modern technology. While fire and heat define pyrometallurgy, there is another, completely different path to extracting nickel from its ores: hydrometallurgy. As the name implies, hydrometallurgy uses water-based chemical solutions to dissolve and separate metals. This process, often called leaching, uses liquids to selectively wash the valuable metal out of the solid rock. This approach is particularly important for treating laterite ores. The core principle of hydrometallurgy is selective dissolution. The goal is to find a chemical solution that will dissolve the nickel while leaving the bulk of unwanted material behind as solid residue. One of the most advanced techniques is high-pressure acid leaching, HPAL. This process uses giant industrial-scale pressure cookers, autoclaves, to dissolve nickel from challenging laterite ores. The finely ground laterite ore is mixed with water and concentrated sulfuric acid, then heated with high-pressure steam to around 250 degrees Celsius. The pressure can be more than 40 times normal atmospheric pressure. Inside this extreme environment, the chemical reactions happen quickly. The hot, pressurized acid attacks the ore minerals, breaking them down and releasing nickel and cobalt into the solution. After leaving the autoclave, the next step is to separate the nickel-rich pregnant leach solution from the solid residue in large thickener tanks. The clear, green-colored pregnant leach solution is now ready for final purification to recover pure nickel and cobalt. One elegant way to recover the metal is electrowinning. The purified solution is pumped into large electrowinning tanks with anodes and cathodes. A strong direct current is passed through the cell. Nickel ions are attracted to the cathodes where they gain electrons and become nickel atoms. Layer by layer, a solid, high-purity nickel deposit grows on the cathodes. After about a week, cathodes thick with nickel are lifted out by crane. Nickel sheets are stripped from the starter plates, washed and cut to size for sale. Electro-won nickel is often over 99.9% pure. That purity makes it suitable for superalloys and other demanding uses. Whether by electricity or chemistry, this final step completes the watery journey, transforming a colored solution into a tangible, valuable modern metal. Our journey with nickel has shown us a metal of immense utility, a cornerstone of our modern technological world. However, this progress comes at a price. The process of wresting nickel from the Earth's crust and refining it into a pure metal is a monumental undertaking, an industrial process on a colossal scale. It carries significant consequences for nature and for human communities nearby. It is a story with two sides, a double-edged sword that we must examine. The creation of a mine can bring jobs and immense wealth, transforming local economies and funding national development. The most immediate and visible impact of nickel mining is the profound alteration of the landscape itself. To access the ore, vast areas of land must be cleared of all life. The result is a massive open wound in the earth, a terraced pit that can be many square kilometers in size and hundreds of meters deep, a feature so large it is clearly visible from space. For every ton of nickel ore extracted, many more tons of waste rock must be moved. These man-made mountains can dwarf the surrounding natural topography. The consequences for biodiversity can be severe. The removal of habitats inevitably leads to the displacement or loss of local wildlife populations, particularly in tropical biodiversity hotspots. While mining reshapes the land, the process of smelting can have a profound impact on the air. For decades, sulfur dioxide was simply released directly into the atmosphere with devastating environmental consequences. For decades, areas surrounding major nickel smelters suffered from extreme acid rain. This acidified the soil, killed vast tracts of forest and left behind a barren, moon-like landscape. The human health impacts are also serious. High concentrations of sulfur dioxide can cause respiratory problems, and communities living downwind have historically faced higher rates of illness. Thankfully, modern smelters now invest in advanced pollution control technologies. The sulfur dioxide gas is captured and converted into commercial-grade sulfuric acid, reducing emissions by over 90%. For every ton of valuable nickel concentrate produced, hundreds of tons of waste material are left behind. Managing this enormous volume of waste is one of the single greatest environmental challenges for the mining industry. The tailings are typically pumped to a specially constructed storage facility, a large valley or basin that has been dammed to create a vast artificial pond. The primary concern is long-term stability. The dams must be engineered to withstand earthquakes, extreme rainfall, and the immense pressure of the material behind them. Modern tailings facilities are designed with impermeable liners and complex water management systems, but they require constant monitoring, a responsibility that continues long after the mine has closed. The arrival of a large-scale nickel mine in a remote or developing region can be a transformative event, bringing with it a wave of economic activity that can change the fortunes of a community almost overnight. The company pays taxes and royalties to governments, which can fund schools, hospitals, roads, and other vital public services. A whole ecosystem of supporting businesses springs up. However, this sudden influx of wealth and people can also bring significant social challenges. The character of a small traditional community can be altered irrevocably. Furthermore, the economic benefits are often subject to volatile boom and bust cycles. When the price of nickel is high, the mine thrives, but when it falls, operations may be suspended entirely. To understand the most extreme environmental and economic impacts of nickel production, we must travel to Norilsk in the Siberian Arctic of Russia. Norilsk is a city built on nickel. For decades, smelters operated with minimal environmental controls, releasing staggering quantities of sulfur dioxide. An enormous area of surrounding tundra forest, larger than Belgium, is dead or dying. The economic story is one of equal extremes. The city is a powerhouse of the Russian economy, with workers among the highest paid in Russia, but the entire existence depends on a single company and industry. In recent years, under intense pressure, there have been signs of change. The company has begun investing billions in modernizing operations and tackling its monumental environmental legacy. The challenges we have explored have created a powerful new driver: the quest for sustainability. As the world increasingly demands nickel for green technologies, consumers and manufacturers are asking more questions about the origins of their raw materials. This has given rise to the concept of green nickel produced with the lowest possible environmental and social impact. This quest is pushing the industry to innovate across the entire production chain. In mining, it means greater focus on progressive rehabilitation, using more precise mining techniques to reduce waste rock, and finding better ways to manage water. In processing, the push drives cleaner technologies. For smelters, it means capturing virtually all sulfur dioxide emissions and reducing carbon footprint using renewable energy. Perhaps the most important innovation is the shift towards a truly circular economy. Nickel is infinitely recyclable without any loss of quality. Recovering nickel from old stainless steel products and used batteries is far less energy-intensive than primary mining. As end-of-life volumes grow, creating efficient recycling systems becomes essential. As millions of electric vehicle batteries reach end of life, they will represent a vast urban mine. The future is one where primary nickel from mines and recycled nickel from cities work in tandem. This integrated system is the only sustainable way to meet the world's growing appetite for this critical metal, ensuring secure supply for generations while respecting planetary limits. Innovation is happening at every stage. Automation and robotics are making mining safer and more efficient. There is even research into using bacteria to help leach metals from low-grade ores. For smelters, the focus is on decarbonization, exploring hydrogen instead of carbon as reducing agent and powering furnaces with renewable energy. Developing efficient technologies to recover nickel, cobalt, and lithium from used batteries is one of the most urgent research priorities. We may even one day return to nickel's cosmic origins. Companies are exploring the possibility of mining nickel from asteroids, moving from science fiction to plausible reality. Our story of nickel has been one of transformation. We have seen a metal, once dismissed as a devil's trick, transform into an architect of our world. It has hardened our steel, protected our food, enabled our flight, carried our currency. It has been a silent and steadfast partner in our technological progress for over 2 centuries. Today, it stands ready for its most important role yet: a key enabler of a cleaner, more sustainable energy system. The future of transportation and the stability of our electricity grids are increasingly being forged in this silvery white metal. This future is not guaranteed. It depends on our ability to learn from the past and make wise choices in the present. The environmental and social challenges are real and cannot be ignored. The path forward requires a new kind of partnership, one between mining companies, governments, scientists, and all of us as consumers. It requires commitment to innovation, environmental stewardship, and respect for communities. We must demand that the materials powering our green future are themselves produced in a way that is genuinely green. As we look ahead, the story of nickel will continue to evolve. New alloys will be discovered, new battery chemistries will be invented, new uses for this versatile element will emerge. The journey of this element is a reminder that even humble materials can profoundly shape civilization and the health of our planet. The next time you see the gleam of a stainless steel sink, pick up a coin, or watch a silent electric car glide by, perhaps you'll think of nickel's incredible journey. Think of the fiery magma deep within the earth, the massive machines that move mountains, the intense heat of the smelter, the quiet chemistry of the refinery. Think of the immense human ingenuity and effort required to bring this element into our lives. Nickel is more than a substance on the periodic table. It is a thread woven into the fabric of our modern existence, a silent shaper of our past, our present, and our future.